Hello and welcome to Cryptic Web Chronicles. Today we're going to be covering a wild tale about a smelly old Airbnb located in the city of Milwaukee. An Airbnb that some online have described as the most swatted house in America. All because it also happens to be home of notorious internet lolcow Patrick S. Tomlinson. If you haven't heard of him previously, make sure to check out my Patrick Tomlinson Saga playlist to learn more about the background of this story. To sum things up, though, Tomlinson has become the target of a lot of internet trolling due to his behavior and antics online, with many believing he is unable to stop feeding the trolls. In response to his trolling, Patrick has tried to spin a ridiculous narrative claiming he's the victim of gang stalking and that he's being targeted by cyber terrorists. Eventually, Patrick started to genuinely experience swattings by an unknown individual after years of claiming such incidents and harassment without evidence. Since then, he has seemingly used these swattings to boost his internet presence and gain attention online. Swatting, if you weren't aware, is a dangerous internet trend that has grown increasingly common in recent years. Swattings are typically triggered by hoax 911 calls involving bomb threats or threats of violence. The purpose is to falsely send an armed police response to the victim's home. The perpetrators often use high-tech methods to hide their identity from law enforcement, and the proliferation of internet-based tools and online services have only made it easier for criminals to carry out swattings over time. Recently, it was also discovered that individuals on the dark web were offering swatting services, with some even using AI to carry out their crimes. The following is a 911 call that a swatter made using an AI text-to-speech voice that was obtained by the news site Motherboard.
Hello, I just committed a crime and I want to confess.
You did a crime and you want to confess?
I placed explosives in a local school.
You did what?
I placed explosives in a local school.
Okay, what local school did you put the explosives in?
Hempstead High School. The address is 3715 Pennsylvania Avenue.
Why would you do that? Hello? Hello?
I will not tell you.
Well, why? Okay, so I appreciate that you called us to let us know that you did this, but can you give me a little bit more information as to why, possibly where, what type of explosives, what time is it supposed to go off?
3715 Pennsylvania Avenue. Goodbye.
Okay, sir.
On October 5th, 2022, Fox 6 in Milwaukee aired a story about the swattings Patrick S. Tomlinson had experienced. This provided him with a platform to present his perspective, portraying himself as an innocent victim targeted out of the blue. He also took this opportunity to accuse all his trolls and critics of being responsible for the swattings, despite the fact that these actions are universally condemned by Tomlinson's online detractors.
With a ballistic shield, full body armor, assault rifles. I mean, that's not something that I can defend against.
Milwaukee's SWAT team, a regular visitor to their East Side home, but they have done nothing wrong. How a tweet unleashed the fury of cyber stalkers. That's our big story tonight at 10. Now imagine being in your home when the police bang on your door, guns drawn, all because someone else made a bogus 911 call.
This was the scene. A Milwaukee couple says that's happened to them not once or twice, but 6 times in the last 2 years. They are frustrated. Fox 6's Ashley Sears is live and explains the couple says this all stems from cyber stalking.
Yeah, Mary, Patrick Tomlinson is a science fiction author based in Milwaukee. Now, he's tweeted some strong political views critical of the far right, but he says this all goes back to something he tweeted in 2018.
It is unbelievably frustrating and offensive.
For the last few years, Patrick Tomlinson and Nikki Robinson haven't been able to live a normal life.
It never stops. This is all these people are.
Their lives terrorized by strangers from the internet. They say all stems from a tweet the sci-fi author made 4 years ago.
Back in September of 2018, I tweeted that I'd never personally found Norm Macdonald to be funny.
For the last 2 years, people have made false 911 calls, drawing Milwaukee police to their East Side home.
We got a very angry banging at the door.
It started in May of 2020 and escalated this summer with 4 incidents in the last 2.5 months.
It's a way to try and trick the police into being your executioners.
The most recent happening Saturday evening.
It was at least like 4 guns and the ballistic shield pointed at me.
Robinson was home alone at the time.
And I came down the stairs with my hands up. I think I was going, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay.
Police have always left without anyone being injured, but the couple worries it won't always be that way. They're not only frustrated with the people doing this, but the police responding. A couple trying to get their lives back without anyone getting hurt.
You don't have to keep doing the bidding of the people whose stated goal is to kill us.
Milwaukee police tell us out of an abundance of caution, they have to take calls for service seriously and make sure no one is in danger. They say swatting is unacceptable, illegal, and potentially dangerous. They tell us they are investigating these incidents. Reporting live on the East Side, Ashley Sears, Fox 6 News.
Hopefully they find the culprits and put a stop to it. Ashley, thank you.
As you can see, Patrick and his wife both clearly expressed that they feel unsafe in their home and that their lives are being threatened by cyberstalkers. But a month after the Fox 6 story aired, Patrick apparently joined Airbnb, a service that allows people to rent out their properties for short periods. Patrick would proceed to list a portion of his own house, which is a dilapidated duplex, for rent on Airbnb. The very same house that we just watched the police raid on the news. The same one that had allegedly been swatted 6 times by that point and was supposedly being targeted by, quote, cyberstalkers who allegedly were trying to kill Patrick and his wife. Patrick was now renting out part of this house to strangers looking for a cheap place to stay. This is highly irresponsible of Tomlinson, if what he claims is true. If he's regularly being swatted and targeted by gangstalkers, his Airbnb tenants are obviously at significant risk. They could face serious danger, as the police might raid the house with guns drawn at any moment. Hosting an Airbnb at Patrick's house is a tragedy waiting to happen, and I can't help but suspect that Patrick could be doing this simply to raise more publicity. In my opinion, he obviously doesn't care what happens to his tenants if he's willing to host them in a house that he himself supposedly feels unsafe in. If one of them were hurt or killed in a swatting, it would be an even bigger media frenzy. What's even more wild, though, is the fact Patrick's Airbnb listing has over 140 reviews, a majority of them positive, and it appears to still be operating to this day. Keep these reviews in mind because we're coming back to them later. On June 29th, 2023, Patrick would appear on NBC Nightly News to once again discuss the swattings, which were supposedly continuing to happen.
Tomlinson posted a casual tweet.
I simply said that I'd never personally found the comedian Norm Macdonald funny.
It caught the attention of online harassers who began swatting Patrick and his wife Nikki at their Milwaukee home. Swatting is when false calls trick 911 dispatchers into sending an all-out armed response. The experience can be terrifying.
I make my way downstairs to find that there are half a dozen police with pistols drawn, shotguns, AR-15s, flashlights all pointed at my head. I am pulled out of the house, and then on my own front porch, I'm handcuffed.
And not just once.
Our house has been swatted 42 times now.
42 times police have actually come in some form to your door?
Yes.
Patrick and Nikki are still constantly harassed.
They've been texting us during this interview.
And their harassers use voice synthesizers and other technology to mask their identity.
Maybe you should get a real job. Then again, you'll be able to learn a trade in prison.
At the same time,
as you can see from the report, Patrick was now claiming he'd been swatted over 40 times. So while all these swattings are supposedly happening, people have been staying at Patrick's house, reviewing it on Airbnb, and not one of them have yet mentioned the swattings or anything about police coming to the house. Nor is there any disclaimer on the listing about the fact tenants could be detained by the police in a swatting during their stay at Casa de Patrick. Tomlinson clearly hid the fact he was renting the place when he spoke to the media, as nobody reporting the story ever mentioned this detail. The fact so many people have rented part of Patrick's house on Airbnb during the same time frame as his supposed swatting saga, and not a single person has mentioned it in their review, is something I find incredibly fishy. How is such a thing possible? And furthermore, how can Patrick seriously rent his place out like this if it's being swatted on a regular basis? The whole thing calls Patrick's story into question, if you ask me. If Patrick isn't exaggerating the severity of the swattings and harassment he claims to have received, it is highly unethical for him to be renting out his house while experiencing such threats. In my opinion, he is either overstating his swatting claims to gain sympathy, or he is so greedy that he doesn't care if innocent people get caught up or even hurt and killed in the midst of his internet drama. How could anyone with a clear conscience host families in a house that is being targeted by individuals described as terrorists? Something just doesn't line up here, if you ask me. Maybe it's just that Patrick likes wearing a maid outfit and cleaning up the trash and beer cans his guests leave. But all jokes aside, these swattings are reprehensible, and I obviously don't endorse them. Even though I think Patrick is an abhorrent person who is deserving of ridicule online, I don't believe he deserves to live in fear of being raided by the police 24 hours a day. And I honestly wouldn't wish something like that on anyone, because I can't imagine how frustrating it must be to experience. But that's all for tonight, so thanks for watching. This has been Cryptic Web Chronicles. Make sure to like and subscribe if you haven't already. Good night.